Good morning. Thank you very much. I'm Ryan Sweeney, hosting the View from the Skies. This is be my first vlog covering the military transition. I always like to start off the day with a great cup of coffee. I don't care if it's 100 degrees or 10 degrees outside, nothing but a hot cup of coffee. Kick your day off is a wonderful thing. So today I want to talk about a few things. We've been getting a lot of feedback on how do I, when I go through my transition, my growth, I pick growth or income or location, my interests, my skills, my culture. So I kind of put a few things together, some of which you've seen, some of which you may not have seen. Just shared it with the Hiring Our Heroes last week, and it's something that might be of interest to you, and you might be able to find a way to narrow that search path down, and then finally you might have the opportunity to go through this process with me or understand that when I use the example that I've laid out at the end to kind of help set yourself at ease, understand that we've all gone through this and done this, and it's not something that's simple, but hopefully this is a tool that you can keep in your back pocket and something that you can work on at home. So what drives you? What motivates you? All right, so the first thing many people look at is growth, right? They want, for the most part, whether you're an NCO or you're an officer, or even if you're just a technical individual, specialist or whatever coming out of the military, most people want an opportunity to grow. We're type A, we're that hungry people that want to launch their career off for something or another. But there's also other growth things to consider as well. Growing family, growing within a location. So, kind of defining what growth means to you. But, from the organizational standpoint, what do you want to do to grow? And sometimes growing means relocating. Sometimes it means changing businesses or changing your avenue or changing your functional area within a business. And the important thing, I think, first and foremost, is to have an idea and have a plan of what your growth is going to look like and be able to articulate that when you go through the resume and interview process. So, nobody wants to come out and say, well, I don't, not trying to, I'm retired, having a retirement paycheck, so I want to grow, but I don't, I'm not trying to grow in the next year to two, move my way up the corporate ladder, so to speak. It's but you still have ambitions and goals, and you still have a growth plan, even if it's more linear. So be able to articulate, kind of what that 3, 5, 10, 20-year plan or whatever the case looks like. Next thing to consider is income. So, sometimes that's a motivating factor. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes we get out of the military saying, "Hey, I'm want the opportunity to make more money," and sometimes it's maybe the culture or the lifestyle that we decide to leave the military. So, something to definitely consider is more than likely or most likely you're going to take a step backwards in income as far as you're walking into a new industry. Going to have to reprove yourself. And you're going to have to prove your worth within the organization. So understand that you might have to take a step back, but understand that this is not necessarily the military. It's not the I'm so much better than my peers that I'm gonna get promoted a year early. It's like hey, I'm so much better than my peers. I'm getting I might get promoted in the next year. Way faster, and you have the opportunity to make up a lot of that time. Just through hard work and through learning and gaining new skill sets, improving yourself within an organization. So, income is maybe it's a motivating factor, maybe it's not. Depends on your personal situation scenario, but something to consider that might not be the be all end all in the short term, but might be your goal in the long term. And location. So I know a lot of people get out because they're just sick of moving. They're sick of the every 3 year cycle, and location. They want to settle down. Where they're from, their wife's from, or they found a good town, and they enjoy what's in that area. My wife's from Central Texas. I'm from upstate New York, and here I am right now in Kentucky, kind of in between the two, and it's was more of the opportunity, that kind of that growth and income thing for me personally. But location is something that's definitely something to consider, and it's sometimes it's the easiest sacrifice to make. And when people say location, don't look at it as it's a be all end all. I mean, nobody's saying you need to be there for 3 years or 5 years or 10 years within an organization. You know, even within organizations, there's still moves within the organization, and then you sit there and go, well, why did I leave the military? I might spend 3 years in Kentucky and 3 years in New York and 3 years in Alabama and just keep moving around. Well, the difference kind of is you have control over that with these two other, these two other pieces. So you can if you want that growth to accelerate, then you can move locations. If you want to stagnate it a little bit because whatever you have, you're having a child or something happens, or you need to move closer to your parents or something like that, then you can kind of flex with that. And nobody's going to sit there and tell you have to move. That's the difference. You have to move every 3 years. They're going to recommend, hey, you're telling me you want to grow, you might want to consider being more relocatable. Or you're saying you're waiting for the best opportunity, then that growth plan's going to growth, angle of attack, if you will, is going to come down a little bit, and then the location is going to come up a little bit as you become as you get what you need out of your location a little bit more. So it's kind of giving some and taking some. So it's not, again, it's not that we're moving you in 3 years. I mean, each organization, you're a hard, good worker, proving yourself through your daily work and your statistics, that they're going to be happy with you in a role. They're going to be happy with you at a location. They're not going to push you out and say you have to go grow your career, get out the door. Here your line for the next step. They're going to recommend it maybe, but so location is something definitely consider. It's not. It's not, again, the 3 year move every single time. It's something you still have control over. Yes, when you look at an organization, consider all their sub facilities. That's not, even GE, one of the largest organizations of aviation, has over 80 plants, and there's not a whole lot on the West Coast. If I was interested in going on the West Coast, for example, but there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of chances to move for location and growth-wise and income. So, and as you move up the ranks, then you can eventually settle down a little bit more. So again, it might sound like a lot, but it might be one, 2, 3 moves, and then you're settled down, maybe at corporate headquarters or at a bigger facility or whatever the case is. So definitely something to consider when it comes to location. I have that next cup of coffee here. So I moved that and I tie that, and I left these colors the same because you're going to see in the end how these relate to one another. So the first thing is interest, right? So I take a look at my interest, my brand, my mission, if you will. My first military transition career, it didn't go particularly well. I moved to that first job in 10 months, and that's because I didn't look at really my interests, who I was, so to speak. So at the end of the day, I like to work out, I eat healthy, and I was basically working at a gas station, for lack of a better term, and I was pushing, the P&L was a big thing. I was on the sales side, so pushing the 2-for-1 candy or the bigger cup of Coke or whatever the case is, and it didn't align with my interests and who I thought I was, which fast forwards me to GE. I mean, I flew Blackhawks, flew on T700 engines, still have friends out there flying on T700 engines, so it became a natural brand interest to me. I mean, I still share stories today within corporate of flying in the mountains of Afghanistan and some of the sticky situations I was in, and even when doing my data analytics and getting into heavy, hot environments and having those powerful engines kind of get me out of some rough spots or giving me a little bit more than extra. So you got to find your interest, and to me, it's the biggest thing past service members, veterans. It's finding that mission. Where do you feel you add value to a company, or which to really to your life. So I mean, a lot of people look at maybe the healthcare side of the house, even though they didn't do medical service in the military. It's that giving back to the community. It's helping people out, making a difference, so to speak. So find what your interests are. Your interest might be money. You're making money. Your interest might be investing in others, private equity or whatever the case is. So or consulting, coaching, teaching, mentoring. So kind of take a look at who you are, and I think this is the natural launch point and what your interests are. So you can really kind of cross out who you're not, and then find out where to go forward from there. So then you start taking a look at your skills. So once you kind of know who you are, what you want, you take a look at your skill set, and you kind of start to match your resume up, if you will, with your skills. And I guess I'll give a good example if you bear with me here for a moment. Let me pull it up here. So when I work through my resume, basically I look at my master resume and I have a list of skills, and what I do is, so what I do is when I take this job description here and I start matching up my skills. So let me pull this over here for a second. So you can see these are generally my skills. And when I got out of the military, I literally thought I was a jack of all trades, master of none, and I had probably double this. And I started looking through my resume and just started whittling off. And this is my master's, again, mind you. I would not recommend a long resume, but and as I start looking at these job descriptions, I start putting tick marks next to this. So if that job description is calling for sales, and I have basically one tick mark, and it's here at my 10 months at Love's, then probably not a position I want to go ahead and apply for, because I probably really don't have that strong skill set. Now, if it's something that I really want for my future, then I have to go back and find ways to develop those skills, which we can talk about later. But my point is that you have to take a real cold, hard look at your skills. It's not the jack of all trades, it's master of none. It's the 4, 5, or 6 skills that you really, kind of your primary skills. You probably have ones that, if you were to check those off on your resume, like I do there, you're going to have 6, 7 checks next to them, match a job description, and then you might have 2, 3 of them or something that have 1 or 2 or maybe 3. Okay, so then you say, okay, here's my primary, here's my alternate, and then you look through that job description. It gives you, 6 or 7 primaries, or 6 or 7 checks next to a couple primaries, and 2, 3 checks next to an alternate, and you see if they match. You start to match. You go, I got this. I have the skills for that job. So go back, look at your skills, find out what skills you really actually do have, and then which ones you don't have as much of, and are they worth improving, or do you need to go a different direction based on your interests? So all right, so the next thing is culture, values, you and the company. So that's becomes a little bit more of a difficult part, but it's not what's on the website. Our values and our culture, and this is our mission and what we believe in. It's doing those informational interviews. It's talking to people, and you can't come out and ask them what are your values, but you come out and ask, if you're big in giving back to the community, then you ask them, maybe what their community service is like, or whether the team goes to lunch together. If you're big on teamwork and work ethic. Collaboration. So questions like that will help answer what the culture of a company is look like, and then you got to look at your culture and values, and that kind of ties in with your interests. So, you might be interested in, really interested in working out, for example, or eating well. So you start looking into, well, what part of the, what part of the country, or whatever. I'm a Mediterranean, diet or whatever. So I need to live near the coast because I eat a lot of fish or whatnot. I mean, I don't know. It's a kind of a goofy example, but the point is you have to look at the culture of the area, the culture of the company, and really what you value for yourself as culture, so to speak. Um, so here's where it gets great, right? So these colors will match, and you'll start to see all these tying together. First and foremost, interest, brand and mission equals growth. When you're talking to somebody and you're interested in something in that conversation or that brand or that product or the mission or the service or whatever you want to call it, it shows. It shows in an interview. It shows in just a general conversation. When as you develop that rapport with individuals, it shows if you're interested. And a prime example, when I was going through my transition through the headhunter organizations, I think I had 9 interviews, and the companies I was interested in and the job positions I was interested in were all on day 2. Well, day 1, I had to interview for basically making trash bags, I guess, or Ziploc bags, or whatever the case was a manufacturing facility. And my I'm trying to be a plastic free, or as plastic free as I can, individual, and that was kind of the culture side of me, which so the brand and the mission didn't really appeal to me, and it showed. I mean, I turned around, I talked excitement in manufacturing with GE, making engines that go into Blackhawks and other military aircraft, but I couldn't get exciting talking manufacturing plastic bags as I'm trying to not buy plastic bags, or bring my own bag when I go grocery shopping, or whatever the case is. So it shows if you have an interest, even if you can only fake the funk so much. So taking a look at yourself, showing that interest, and learning yourself, and learning that interest is gonna help you with your growth, kind of growth plan, career plan. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do next, based on your interests? Then you look at those job descriptions and the skills in your resume, and where that equals to is income. I mean, at the end of the day, companies are hiring you to do a job, and maybe that job description is off, or maybe it's ever kind of changing. But at the end of the day, they're looking for a group of probably characteristics out of the person, and skill set, first and foremost, out of the individual, and that's what's going to correlate to the income. The more skills you have, the higher your income is going to be, and that's why people start getting certifications and MBAs. You get that on-the-job experience. You have your past experience in the resume, but then you start looking at getting certifications and going through like MBA programs or additional education, or whatever the case is. So that's direct correlation right there. More skills you have in the industry that you're in, the higher income is going to be, or the more skills you have in an industry you're trying to get in, the more income you're going to have. All right, and then culture values, that your culture values to that location. So I mean, it's what are you looking for kind of in life out of yourself, out of the company, and out of the location you're moving to. I mean, you looking for, you like hunting and like outdoors and like peace and quiet and don't want to see your neighbors, then there's certain places in the country, that are like that, small town America, and some organizations that have, small plants or small facilities or whatever the case is. Or do you like the hustle bustle and of big cities? Do you like the be the first to see, explore, do new things, the new food that came out, or go out and try different cultures and foods and travel, be close to an airport. I mean, it kind of depends on, you, and then it kind of depends on what you're looking at the company. So, and then that correlates to the location. So it might not be your number one choice. Might not be, hey, it's not Denver, Colorado, because I really like skiing. I want to be a ski instructor on the side or whatever the case is. But hey, I got an opportunity in, I don't know, northern Vermont or New Hampshire where I can still go skiing. It's not quite the same kind of mentality. It's not quite as laid back, I guess, as Colorado, so to speak. Northern New Hampshire, but it's still got that live free or die attitude. It's just got a bunch of, uh, you know, you know, uh, more of an aging population, so you might not quite have the growth opportunity as people leave the Northeast, for example, move out west and move down south. Um, so that's definitely something to consider. And then the big things is looking at these intersections. If your interests start to are way over here and they don't align with the company location, your culture, and don't align with your skill set and income, well, then the chances of you, being honest, finding a position is going to be slim to none. So you want to start probably initially trying to find some of these intersections of at least two of them, excuse me, of at least two of them. So, and then that's where I recommend you kind of rank order these. You rank order your growth, income, location, and then you look at company culture, your skills, and your interests, and you start to see where they align. So, you might be able to have a big city where you have it's in one of your top locations, and you have growth opportunities because it's a large city. But Austin example is the best. Austin, Texas is a great example. My brother-in-law got his degree at UT aerospace engineering. Wicked smart kid. But he wanted location. He wanted location. I want to be in Austin, Texas. I said, and Austin, Texas is growing. It's in Forbes magazine like every year is the fastest growing. Everybody loves it. Has a great culture. Excuse me. It has a great culture. Has a lot of interesting growing things there. But the cost of living is a little high there. You can make some money, but you got to look at your cash flow. You're also going to spend more money. But at the end of the day, Austin, Texas is more or less, an IT. It's the Silicon Hills location. I said, bro, there's not a whole lot of aerospace, engineering and manufacturing going on in Austin, Texas. So you want to make some money and you want to grow your career, then you're probably going to have to sacrifice your location. And he started with the upfront income and location in a private organization, private organization a little bit, but then he started learning that just because it was in his location, it wasn't the culture. The company didn't have the culture that he necessarily was looking for, and then he slowly started sliding into here, and he kind of really got out of the income side for a little while. Had to reprove himself for about a year within an organization up in the Northeast, and then got an opportunity. So now he's in this income growth cycle, but he still has sacrificed his location. But guess what? He learned to love where he's at. I never would have been up here. I appreciate it, love it, enjoy it, and happy to be up here. I'm learning a lot. So, that location piece is starting to change. So things change, that's the moral of the story. You never know it's going to change over the course of time. So, off the bat, you have to look at what you have, that's your skill sets, what your interests are. And that's why a lot of people recommend, be willing to sacrifice location, because you can change location. You don't know. You might see something. You might learn something. You can do the same. You can get more skills, more certifications. Chances are of your interest changing is probably slimmer, but maybe that's an opportunity or a potential. But go back and take a hard look at all these. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to slide this over, and I'm going to go to this little scenario that I put together. All right, so here's my little scenario. I'm married. My first child due in 5 months. My wife's halfway through her pregnancy. Uh, I've been in the Army for 8 years. Got a mechanical engineering degree from West Point. Ended up branching as a quartermaster. Went through the Captain's Career course and became a logistician. I'm 8 months from transitioning out of the military. Uh, haven't done much up to this point, other than submit my Army paperwork, have some conversations with my wife. I've determined that income is my most important, then location, then growth. And then I'm from a small town in Iowa. My wife's from Tarrytown, New York. Met her in New York City when I was stationed at West Point, or going to school at West Point. All right, so I grab my interests here, right? So here are my interests. I'm interested in healthcare administration. My wife has spent some time as a nurse. Right now, she's worried about having our healthy child. But I'm interested in it both for the kind of brand side of the house. I'm also interested in it because I believe it's a growing industry. Uh, I guess I'll back up. I'll say the brand mission side of the house. It's helping people, and it's in a growing industry, and I believe you can make a lot of money in healthcare. I'm also interested in real estate. I've been reading some books about real estate investment, and it's something that I think I want to get into. I haven't been in the Army. I've traveled around, seen some different places, and know that there's a constant flow of people, particularly by military bases. So I think I can make some money there. And then I'm also, because of my interest in money, in real estate, I guess, so to speak, I'm interested becoming a certified financial planner, and that's because not just the money side of the house, but again, it's the mission side of the house. I want to help people, and I really believe I can make a difference, particularly with former transition service members and military, kind of understanding how to manage their money post military. When you don't have that pension, or you're no longer putting into your government retirement. You have that. It's a whole different world out there, basically. So those are my interests. And then I take a look at my culture here. So what I value. What I value is first and foremost that mission, doing something, doing good, giving back. I'm leaving the military because of the travel and the fact I want to kind of grow some roots somewhere and have a family. And but I still want to make a difference. I still want to give back to individuals. I mean, that's why I joined the military and served my country. So I also believe in hard work. I was raised. My father was a farmer, and I spent many hours, before the sun came up and after the sun went down, learning from him and how, the value of hard work. And and I enjoy talking about money. Of course, I want to make money and be rich one day, but just to understand the cash flow, the business side of the house, how to manage money, how to invest money, how to save money, taxes, and it kind of aligns, there with my interest in being a certified financial planner. Where's the best way to use what money you have based on your goals, kind of. So I think, just money in and of itself is something that's interesting to me. And then lastly, I look at my kind of my skill set here. So this one's gonna be a little bit, I guess, smaller. So you can see that all. But being a logistician and a leader within the military as an O3. First on the leadership side, management. Yeah, I did performance development. I coached, kind of taught, mentored the junior individuals on how to grow their career. And then on the logistics sides, I definitely got some certifications and training and understand the OSHA standards, analyzing unit need. You're requesting supply for 10 classes of material, coordinating for transportation, doing fleet management slash maintenance, make sure we had our vehicles up and running for mission, and then that kind of tied in my planning side and managing projects. I did rail operations, did small arm ranges, and did convoy mission planning. So that's kind of who I am as an individual. So so I go ahead and I kind of rate my interests, and I rate healthcare as my number one. I rate certified financial planning as number two, and then real estate as number three. Um, and then down here, I rate. Well, really, that's kind of what I guess what I'm rating over here. And then, like I said, up here, I've highlighted my fact that I want income, location, and then growth. So, me being from small town, I'd love to get back to small town, USA somewhere. My wife being from outside of New York City, she's fine with small town, but she doesn't want to be super small, rural area. So, we have some cities picked out, or some smaller towns or near some smaller cities picked out. But I started to realize that if based on my wife's needs, that basically I can't her interest in the fact that I want good health care for my child, and that I want to be in healthcare administration. That as first and foremost, that I'm pretty much going to have to sacrifice some of the location on my part. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of initially say if I'm looking at healthcare here as my number one. As my number one, let me go ahead and change this fill to something a little easier to read. So when I'm looking at healthcare here, I'm going to say my healthcare falls into a career interest, kind of close to location. And then when I start looking at job skill, well, healthcare administrators usually need some sort of healthcare administrator, whether it's an MBA or healthcare administration, usually master's degree to help run an organization. But I really, really like the healthcare side, and I think I'd be, it's a very high interest for me. So I start looking at it and I go, okay, well, do I have the skills? And I look at that job description of a healthcare administrator, and guess what? My management skills match up with a healthcare administrator, but my logistics skills don't. So now number one starts to come over here. So that's kind of where my number one is. And then I go to my number two. We'll change the color to something a little bit different here. Light blue. So my number two, certified financial planner. Can kind of do that anywhere. Obviously, the more people, the better. But really can do that anywhere. I can do it from home, honestly. So location, that starts to favor more location, meets my work ethic, my money side of the house, meets what my wife's interests are, meets my growth plan. It's on me. I kind of own it. Within an organization. So then I start to look at, again, I kind of got the coaching, mentoring side of the house, but planning, that applies. My ability to look at analyzing need, using statistics. Okay, so that's a bit more. So that one probably starts to fall closer, maybe closer into this, this range right here. So I'm getting closer to that center a little bit there. And then I go ahead and I take my third one here. And that's number three. I make that the red one. And that's real estate. So real estate, obviously I can do that anywhere. Obviously, again, more opportunity in the bigger cities, more competition as well. So I start to take a look at, and that's definitely hard work. Whether I'm doing it myself or doing the planning side, I think of flipping houses, but there's a lot of money to be had. And then I start looking at the skills. Well, basically a project manager. I have to figure out, how to get the train moving down the track, so to speak. So maybe rail ops is important. Small arms and ranges, convoys, all the planning, the managing projects. Okay, I'm starting to see doing some coordination, doing some analyzing of cost, and maybe I never did cost in the Army, but I understand how it works. I understand how to use a Excel spreadsheet and how to do some detailed analysis. So now I start to say, okay, well, maybe that one's fallen a little bit more into my skill set, less into my ideal growth, but it's also close to location. So there you have it. So now I'm like, okay, well, I really, really wanted number one, though. Really, like, that's like number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then certified financial planners number 7, though, because I just really love the healthcare side of things. So did a lot of informational interviews, understand how things work, and it's definitely what I want to do. So maybe rather than looking at healthcare administration, I go, there's a fourth one, and that fourth one becomes, after talking with some friends and some colleagues, that fourth one becomes healthcare supply chain. What? Supply chain? Yeah. I mean, it's not not logistics as far as working for FedEx or something, but you need to keep a hospital up and running administratively, but you also need to keep a hospital up and running through supply. And then I have a certain level of standards I need to meet. I have to analyze, need, use, need. I have to request a certain amount of supplies. I have to coordinate, manage, run some projects, get some feedback from employees. Wow, this one's really starting to match. So here's the kicker, though. I don't get to manage or lead anybody. I'm just kind of sitting behind the desk and not directly managing, but I'm going to need to have that influential leadership as I go and talk to nurses and folks on the floor and see what they need, and I try to sell what I think they should need, so to speak. And the only real thing I'm missing is cost control. I'm going to have to own that cost piece. That's why I want to be able to influence, control costs, and that's kind of the only skill I don't really have. It meets the location, but now I come off of growth a little bit because it's not that direct path to healthcare administration. But there you go. So now I have a decision to make. I think I can become. I don't think it's really logical for me to walk right into healthcare administration, and that's first and foremost because of my skill set. I don't have the skills to do it. So I go ahead and erase that as number 1. Real estate, I really like it. I'm interested. I think I can do that on the side. I don't want to make a career. I don't want to become a real estate agent because I need that income a little bit more. I need that income a little bit more, which I can make a lot of income, but it's also more risky income. And like I said, I got a wife too. And as a real estate agent, I'm not going to have insurance. It's about the commissions I make. So, go cold hard truth there. I got to take care of my family. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of real estate. So that leaves me with, all right, certified financial planner or healthcare supply chain operations. And again, I got my degree in mechanical engineering. So no economics degree. I might be able to go out and get my certification, or a company might hire me to go get a certification, because they believe in a lot of the skills and that character and that work ethic I bring to the organization. But at the end of the day, it's not a direct skill translation based on kind of my degree and some of the skills that I've done in the past. So I go ahead and wipe that away and decide, okay, I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit on my interest and kind of my immediate growth plan, quell that down a little bit. I'm going to get into healthcare supply chain management, so I can still have an impact somewhat on the mission, helping people indirectly through working at a hospital. Gets me able for me to control my location. Income's a little step back. Supply chain, I'm not going to make the money that I would in a manufacturing company, so to speak, but it still aligns closer with my mission and location, and it aligns with what my interests are and how I want to grow. So I know it's going to be I might be 3 or 4 years behind plan, but I think I can make a name for myself in the organization based on my skill set, and I'm going to turn around and use my GI Bill and do some weekend work and go to school and get my get an additional degree that aligns with becoming a healthcare administrator. And that's the long story, but I want to walk through it, and that's how basically how in a perfect world how you assess that. I mean, I understand that there's more skills that come into play. There's more variables. There's the culture, your interests, so on and so forth. But hopefully that helps you understand how to go about and kind of assess your interests versus your skills versus culture, location, and what you prioritize between income and growth when making that military transition. So thanks very much for watching. Appreciate it. Have a cup of coffee on me, and enjoy the rest of your day.